Okay, so in these recent last few weeks, I've been coaching beginners in their introduction to fighting games as a whole. And with the AT&T event that happened with Street Fighter 6, I've been keeping a close eye on the discourse of the new players and their reactions to different hurdles that they might come across on their journey to improve. One of the big first hurdles that I'm noticing is their first interactions with grapplers and zoners. I'll likely make a video on zoners in the future, but I have a clip here that I think accurately embodies a very relatable sequence of events that many players experience against grapplers. It's honestly a little bit of a struggle to explain to my students why grapplers are often seen as low to mid-tier characters. We'll go over counterplay and the on-paper principles of fighting a grappler later, but I think the process of fighting a grappler can be broken down into 5 stages. And I'd like to coin those stages the 5 stages of Gief. Yeah, if you thought grief was bad, just wait until you fight a grappler for the first time. No pain quite like it. Throughout this video, we're going to see each of the stages demonstrated by Mr. Tyler 1 here. Those being 1. Confidence, 2. Patience, 3. Recklessness, 4. Panic, and 5th and finally, anger/frustration. These phases can happen in any order, and the outcome of a standard match against a grappler is dependent on which one of these phases you're able to maintain. But let's not just talk about it, we'll break them down as they come up in the video.
Zangief, actually, again, I'm not warmed up, so this is gonna be crusty, but dude, just keep your distance, and if he jumps in the air, you're anti-air. So easy this is. And if he does his little lunge thing, you just jump over it.
Alright, as we can see, Tyler is showcasing a lot of confidence here. The large spread of sentiment of grapplers being low or mid-tiers tends to instill confidence in the person playing against them. After all, you could be fighting characters that are much higher on the tier list, so on paper this should be a gimme, especially since a grappler has to actively get on top of you for their win condition. When you get to be the one controlling the pace of the match, it inherently feels like you have a lot more agency over the outcome of the match over the grappler. Tyler has explained a pretty solid game plan for fighting against the character at his level. It makes sense on paper. This should be a relatively simple match. But all of those who've been scarred by grapplers before know it's really not that simple. Let's go ahead and continue.
Now you just play for time. Make it come to you. I got all day.
Hadouken! Hadouken! Hadouken!
It may have been obvious by that first sentence, but Tyler is now demonstrating the second phase, which is patience. He's made it clear that he has a solid game plan and is willing to play for the timer if need be. So far, he's executed his game plan to a T, even if the lariat wasn't the lunge punch he was aiming to jump over. It's this phase that you want to try your hardest to maintain while you're fighting a grappler, because as we'll see, the pace of the match will change very quickly otherwise.
Let's get
With a dangerously close fireball, Tyler has entered the 3rd phase of Recklessness. All it really takes is for you to press a button that's just a little too committal for the spacing for a grappler to get in and start cooking. On Ken specifically, a safer option would have been to use the infamous crouching medium kick to wall out the Giefster. That way, even if Gief does jump the kick, Tyler would have recovered in time to anti-air him with a modern Choryu. Obviously, this isn't an unbeatable option regardless of what people online will say, but it's more about staying as risk-averse as possible in a matchup that can be as scary as this one. It can also be noted that the decision to go for a side-swapping Dragon Lash was also a reckless mistake. You'll want as much stage presence as possible so you can have the extra freedom to move back to get some extra breathing room and stay safe. Gief's end goal is to slowly force you to back away from him until you're in the corner and can't play as safe against him. But by putting himself in the corner, he limited his defensive options and safety, effectively doing all the hard work for Gief. Now, let's just see what happens to Tyler because of these reckless plays.
And then you mess up and
We're able to see that 4th stage of panic set in now that Gief has finally gotten in. After getting jumped in on, Tyler did have a few opportunities to take his turn back. Tyler was jabbed back into relative safety since he wasn't knocked down and didn't have to deal with any direct pressure. This position isn't great, but it still gives him just a little bit of wiggle room to get out. But the Gief ends up jumping in on him. Mind you, this was something that Tyler was explicitly looking for when he mentioned it from the start. And then he knocks him down into a very unsafe meaty drive impact that Tyler could have reacted to with his own drive impact. You can't always drive impact someone back if they do it meaty, but in this instance, he definitely could have. The point here isn't to punch down at a new player who's unfamiliar with these situations. After all, Tyler had only played Street Fighter for like a week or so. So it's completely understandable why he wouldn't be prepared to answer these situations. The point is that when the fourth phase of panic sets in, anyone can be prone to making mistakes in these fast-paced interactions. This is the phase that the grapplers want you in. They want to overwhelm you with a plethora of extreme threats that, while somewhat risky, can lead to big damage and open you up in a way that no other character can. We'll touch on that more in depth near the end of the video, but for now, let's go ahead and finish the clip. Keep your eyes peeled, and you may even see more instances of panic as the match progresses.
One time, and the game is insta over. God, I hate this game.
So, if you were attentive, you probably did notice that there were quite a few other instances of panic. When I started this clip, he was actually in a great position. With a very slight walk forward, Tyler actually gets the Gief to jump into the corner, completely reversing the stage control. Now, he could have pressed a lot of things after blocking the jump in to beat the heavy punch the Gief did afterwards, but typically against grapplers on plus frames, you either want to block it out if you expect them to swing, or jump if you think they'll command grab. But afterwards, he actually did cover the ground pretty well at first. He just wasn't able to react with an anti-air afterwards. Once the Gief dropped his combo though, the next mistake was arguably the biggest of all. Even with modern auto combos, Tyler could have very easily taken the round by adding on a level 2 or level 3 at the end of this. When you're this low, you really can't afford to be greedy with your resources if it means giving up the round. A wise man once said, "Meter regenerates, rounds don't." This last interaction was also notably a mistake, as fireballs become much riskier with Gief's level 2 on reaction, but he could have avoided it in the first place if he just killed the Gief on the punish. And as you'd expect, the fifth phase of Gief is complete with Tyler telling us that he hates the game, fulfilling the prophecy of anger or frustration.
God, I hate this game.
Usually it's people saying that they hate Gief or grapplers, but you get the picture. So now we have a pretty solid understanding of what the 5 stages of Gief are. But I'd also like to directly address a philosophy a lot of my students have whenever it comes to the grappler archetype. I want to discuss why people often consider them low or mid-tier, and if not, it's a big problem for the game's meta. Regardless of your skill level, everyone goes through at least one of the 5 stages of Gief whenever they're fighting a grappler, with the ideal phase for the defender being patience and the ideal phase for the grappler being panic. This reliance on human error is also what makes grapplers typically struggle in different games metas. I like to classify grapplers as a form of rushdown in archetype, in the sense that they are at their strongest whenever they're as close to you as possible. If you're curious of a more in-depth breakdown of my perception of character archetypes, you can check out the character archetype video I made linked up there in the top right corner. With the grappler's strengths being tied towards being close to their opponent, it creates an inherent uphill battle since they need to get in to be at their strongest, therefore forcing them to be the ones who put in the work of approaching. If grapplers were able to get in and perform their game plan with very little risk, any amount of lead that they accrue means that if the game goes down to timer, you're likely gonna have to come to them and potentially take some risks of your own to take that lead back, which is exactly where they want you to be. You ever play against a Gief with a lead? Not fun. You already see this with some perceived rushdown characters in other fighting games like Sonic in Smash or Cammy in Street Fighter. The reason why characters like these are allowed to be strong while grapplers are not boils down to their namesake, the command grab. Once a grappler gets in on you, you have to guess or you take massive damage. It's that simple. Command grabs circumvent the traditional rules of grabs in the sense that you can't tech them and they often lead to massive damage. There's not really a defensive nuance the same way there is with non-grappler rushdown characters. It's much more complicated for other rushdowns to secure a lead. Looking back at Sonic, he's exceptionally difficult to catch when he's on defense, 100%, but he often struggles to open people up in meaningful ways. His biggest weakness is often considered his inability to kill, so it's difficult for him to maintain a consistent lead. He also really struggles at opening someone up on defense. He's reliant on raw dash grabs or shield pokes to desincentivize shielding. But even when he does open someone up, he notably doesn't have that many true combos or kill confirms. He's significantly less threatening to get grabbed by than someone you'd consider a grappler like Donkey Kong. And the same can be said about Cammy. Sure, she has some pretty cheeky ways to open someone up. Although even the best Cammies typically still have to rely on a pretty standard game plan to win most interactions. And the damage on average that she does per interaction is intentionally low to compensate. But with grapplers, the interactions are anything but standard due to the all or nothing nature of the command grab. So, to balance things out, and to ensure that the meta doesn't devolve into things like coin toss guesses for game, grapplers are specifically designed to struggle at approaching someone doing the standard game plan. And it's why their own game plan typically involves a significant uphill battle to achieve their win con. Hence, why grapplers are often considered low to mid-tier characters, and why it's usually a big problem if they are meta. It's also why the very first phase is confidence in the 5 stages of Gief. But what do you think though? Are grapplers secretly broken and no one wants to admit it? Do the honest and hardworking Gief mains deserve a few more patches of being meta? Let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, that's all I got for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.